Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're heading into, well, the really quite haunting history of Dal Lake in Kashmir. It's known for its beauty, of course, but there's also this chilling legend there.
A really persistent one. It's tied to a love story that ended tragically right there in the water.
We're talking about the story of a lost bride and some, let's say, very unsettling things people claim have been happening because of her for, what, over a century now?
Exactly. It's a deep one.
Okay, so let's paint the picture. We're going back to 1893. Shalimar Bagh. There's a wedding happening.
Right. And this wasn't just any wedding. It was between Zuni Begum, who was the daughter of a Hindu Brahmin, and Arif Khan, the son of a Muslim boatman.
So a huge deal back then. They were defying their families, everything for love. You have to imagine the courage that took.
Absolutely. So they have their wedding procession, and they're setting out across Dal Lake in a shikara, those beautiful Kashmiri boats, all decorated.
Sounds idyllic, but that's not how it ends, is it?
Not at all. As they're crossing the lake, this storm just suddenly erupts. Fierce. Violent.
Out of nowhere.
Pretty much. Wind, lightning, the works. And their boat, the shikara, it capsizes in all the chaos.
Ugh, devastating.
Arif, the groom, he gets thrown clear, apparently knocked unconscious, but washes ashore later. He survives.
That's Zuni.
Zuni, tragically, weighed down by her heavy red bridal dress. She sinks beneath the waves. Gone.
And her supposed last words, they're just heartbreaking.
Carried on the storm, the legend says, "Find him. Tell him I waited."
Wow. That sense of unfinished business, that desperation.
That's precisely it. That's the core of this whole haunting, isn't it? Has that sorrow, that waiting kind of transformed into something else.
Yeah.
A presence still searching that lake.
And this is where it starts getting properly eerie. Fast forward a bit, early 1900s, stories start bubbling up. Fishermen, people living on the houseboats. They start talking about seeing something. On moonless nights, specifically. A figure.
A woman in a dripping wet red bridal gown, just floating on the water.
Yeah.
And she'd ask this question, right?
Yeah, the same chilling question every time. Have you seen my groom?
And the really disturbing part of those early accounts is what happened after someone encountered her, if they answered.
Things went wrong. People would apparently find their boats had just drifted way out into the middle of the lake. No idea how, or worse.
Memory loss was reported.
Yeah.
And some people, they just disappeared entirely after talking to her.
It really makes you think twice about answering a stranger on a dark lake, doesn't it? Especially that stranger.
Definitely. It suggests interacting with her, even out of pity, had consequences. Serious ones.
Then there's this account from 1912, documented by a British officer. He reported some very specific, unsettling things.
Like what?
Well, apparently he claimed he saw a pale hand just reaching out of the water and grabbing onto the railings of boats, then vanishing.
Okay, that's properly creepy.
And he also found wet footprints leading away from the lake's edge, but they'd just stop abruptly, like next to empty shikaras, as if someone just vanished into thin air.
Wow. Footprints from the water ending nowhere.
And maybe the strangest detail? He reported hearing faint wedding music, Shinai music specifically, seeming to come from under the water.
Underwater wedding music.
Okay.
So these early stories, they set a pattern, don't they? The grieving bride, the question, the weird disappearances, these ghostly traces.
Yeah, it's not just random spooky tales. There's a consistency that makes the more recent stories feel, well, even more chilling.
Which brings us closer to our time. Let's jump to 2005. There's this account from a couple, Rahul and Priya. They were on their honeymoon.
On a houseboat on Dal Lake. Romantic usually. But one night,
Priya wakes up, hears knocking.
knocking on the houseboat door, or
It seems like it was just outside,
Yeah.
on the water side. She looks out, and she sees her.
the bride.
Yeah, standing on the water, wearing this red lehenga, but Priya described it as looking decayed, rotting. And her hair was floating weirdly like she was underwater, even though she wasn't.
Oh, God. And did she ask?
She did, that whisper, "Have you seen my groom?"
Terrifying. What happened then? Did Rahul see her?
He did. He came to see what was wrong. But his experience was even stranger. He said when he looked into the bride's eyes, he saw his own reflection, but it was hollow, empty, lifeless.
His own reflection.
Yeah.
Hollow. That's
Yeah.
deeply unsettling.
Isn't it? And the next morning, Rahul was gone, vanished.
Just gone. Like the stories from the early 1900s.
Exactly. The only thing left behind was his phone on the deck of the houseboat, playing a wedding song. But it was distorted, playing on a loop.
That detail about the phone, it just adds this modern layer of horror to it all.
It really does. It makes you wonder what that encounter really was. What did he see in her eyes?
Okay, moving on, but just as weird. 2018, Vikram Joshi, a travel blogger.
Right, the photographer. He was out taking pictures, trying to capture the beauty of the lake, maybe even looking for the legend.
And he apparently did capture something. He took a photo, and when he looked at
There
it,
was something in it.
yeah, behind him in the photo, there was this blurred figure in red. But that wasn't the strangest part. His reflection in the water in the picture, it wasn't him. It was a skeleton, dressed in bridal jewelry.
What? A skeleton reflection?
Exactly. And get this, the timestamp on the digital photo, it didn't read 20.18 or whatever. It read 18.93.
1893, the year of the original drowning.
The very year. How is that even possible?
That detail about the timestamp is just bizarre. It suggests this. This presence is somehow messing with time itself, or is stuck in that year.
And what happened to Vikram?
He vanished too. After taking that photo, he just disappeared. His camera was found later floating in the water.
And the last photo on it?
The photo he took. The one with the skeleton reflection. Except, it was slightly different. It now supposedly showed the bride figure holding Vikram's hand. His lifeless hand.
Oh, that's horrifying. It's like she collected him.
That seems to be the implication, doesn't it? So you have these consistent disappearances over decades, even centuries. What's going on? Is there some darker purpose behind it all?
Well, there's an entry in an old boatman's diary that offers a really disturbing theory. It says something like, the bride drowns one soul for every year she's waited.
One soul per year. That's a lot of years.
Over 130 years now. And the diary entry continues, she needs groomsmen for her phantom wedding.
Groomsmen. So the victims aren't just random, they're being taken for a purpose, to populate her spectral wedding party.
That's the chilling idea. It ties into some of the other local beliefs, too.
Like the storm itself.
Exactly. Many locals apparently don't think that storm was just bad weather. They believe it was a curse.
A curse from who?
From Zuni's family. Furious about her marrying Arif, someone outside their caste and religion, so they cursed the union, maybe the lake itself.
Wow. That adds a whole other layer of tragedy and bitterness to it. Social conflict leading to supernatural horror.
And what about Arif, the groom who survived? His story isn't exactly happy either.
No, apparently he survived the drowning, but the grief and trauma,
Hmm.
it drove him mad.
Utterly mad.
Yeah. Locals say he spent the rest of his life wandering, completely broken, always carrying a rotting wedding garland, just waiting for a bride who never came back. Until he died himself.
So much tragedy packed into one event. And the belief connecting the victims to Zuni's ghostly party.
It paints this picture of an eternal, sorrowful search. Zuni, trapped in her grief, collecting others who are then maybe forced to search for Arif's soul alongside her. It's incredibly grim.
Given all this, the history, the disappearances, these specific details,
Yeah.
it's maybe no surprise that people around Dal Lake have developed ways to, well, try and protect themselves.
Right, like a sort of supernatural safety guide. Do's and don'ts for dealing with the bride if you're unlucky enough to meet her.
Exactly. It shows how seriously people take this legend.
Yeah.
So, okay, according to the lore, what should you do if you encounter her?
Well, one suggestion is to throw dried rose petals into the water. Seems symbolic, maybe an offering of peace or respect.
Okay, dried rose petals.
Yeah.
What else?
Playing Shinai music. The idea being that the sound of wedding music might soothe her. Remind her of the happy part, maybe. It's a bit counterintuitive, but that's the belief.
Shinai music. Got it. Anything else practical?
There's also the advice to keep a silver knife under your pillow if you're staying near the lake, especially on a houseboat. Silver's a classic ward against spirits and lots of folklore.
All right.
Okay.
Silver knife. Okay, so those are the DOs. What about the don'ts? These seem even more critical.
Top of the list.
Mm.
Don't answer her question. Have you seen my groom? Just don't engage. Whether you lie or just stay completely silent, the advice is not to give her an answer.
Okay, silence is golden. Maybe literally life-saving here. What else?
Don't wear red near the lake,
Uh,
especially at night. It's her color, the color of a lost wedding. It's believed to attract her attention.
Avoid red. Makes sense. And the last one.
This one's particularly creepy. Don't look at her reflection in the water.
Why not?
Because the belief is she won't show you her reflection. She'll show you your own death. Like maybe what happened to Rahul, seeing that hollow reflection.
Okay, that's terrifying. Don't look at the reflection. Noted. So we have this whole tragic backstory, a century of sightings, disappearances, these specific rules. You'd think that's where the story might, level off. But Apparently not.
No, it seems the legend is still active.
Yeah.
There have been some really quite recent and unsettling developments.
Like what?
Well, in 2022, divers were exploring Dal Lake, and they found something truly grim.
What did they find?
A sunken shikara, an old one. And inside, skeletons, male skeletons, dressed in what looked like wedding clothes.
Wait, really? Skeletons in wedding attire? That directly echoes the boatman's diary entry about needing groomsmen.
Exactly. It lends this horrifying physical, well, maybe not proof, but corroboration to that part of the legend.
That's deeply disturbing. And there's more.
Yeah, just last year, 2023, a couple, newlyweds again, reported seeing something absolutely bizarre at midnight.
Let me guess, something on the water.
A whole ghostly bridal procession walking on the surface of the lake.
Walking on water, a whole procession. Wow, imagine seeing that on your honeymoon.
I can't. And then even this year, 2024, reports have surfaced, this is really strange, of fish in Del Lake spitting out ruby wedding rings.
Fish spitting out rubies. That sounds like something out of a fairy tale, but a really dark one. Echoes of the lost wedding again.
It all suggests this isn't just an old story people tell.
Yeah.
It feels like something ongoing, something still very much present in that place.
Which brings us to a final, maybe a bit of a chilling takeaway for you listening.
A piece of advice, perhaps.
If you ever find yourself by Dell Lake, beautiful as it is, and you hear something unusual, maybe like faint wedding bells coming from underwater.
Consider the legends. Consider the stories.
And maybe, just maybe, think about leaving Kashmir.
Yeah.
Immediately. Because if the stories hold any weight, she might still be out there, collecting guests for her eternal reception.
It really makes you think, doesn't it, about how powerful love and loss can be, how they weave themselves into the landscape, into stories, reflecting these deep human fears and, tragedies that maybe never got resolved. What other stories like this, seemingly impossible ones, might actually be rooted in some core human experience we all recognize?